Hello everyone. This is the 33rd part of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Chapter 98, Full Circle Part 1. Aden's Point of View. So, this wasn't how I thought everything would go down. I addressed the gathered heroes, holding up the cuffs. This is the part y'all start asking questions. You got me right where you need me. In cuffs. Wonder Woman and Superman shared a look. The cuffs are meant to act as a deterrent in case you get violent, son. We don't want to hurt you and neither do we want you hurting others. Superman said. I looked at the faces of the gathered heroes. Although they looked wary and ready for a fight, they didn't seem eager to provoke our interaction into one. It seemed I wasn't the only one who had cooled off somewhat. Nice. Fair enough. I finally said, lowering my hands. I am also open to having a peaceful conversation. I don't want to hurt anyone. Only those that deserve it. Wally scoffed, only to get lightly hit on the side by Robin's elbow. Dude, what the hell? He shouted, but I didn't pay attention to Robin's response. My focus was on the League. Particularly Batman, whose gaze seemed even more piercing at my statement. Hurting people is never the answer, no matter if they're wrong or not. We let the law handle them for a good reason. Superman was quick to say. I nodded. Right, and the cycle continues. Meanwhile, more innocent lives are lost in pursuit of safeguarding one monster's life. To try and rehabilitate them when the only thing they seem hellbent on is causing destruction and pain to people who can't handle it like we can. What can a baseline human hope to do against someone like Black Adam? I laughed a little. Look, maybe I am being too harsh on you. This is not my world. As I said that, the lack of surprise or shock from the junior team told me that they already knew that bit of news. I saw the look of sadness and understanding on Aqualad's face. Maybe Batman had briefed them on my origins. Must be why there is a distinct lack of that senseless jealousy from Kid Flash. I haven't lived here long enough to understand why you do what you do. Why you try and save every life even if it means that that same person will be the death of others down the line. But the thing I can't accept is that you haven't come up with an alternative. I ran my eyes over everyone gathered. You have some of the most powerful and smartest people in the world. I pointedly looked at Bruce. Batman, your resources alone are enough to build a friggin' space station to watch over the Earth. Man, the watchtower was fucking hacks. At that, a few murmurs broke out among the team. Atom and the Flash looked to be in thought. I didn't kid myself to think that I was telling them something they hadn't thought of before. But I was giving voice to that thought. Asking them to change the rules because clearly, while it was working, things could be better. Maybe I found it hard to reconcile with the fact that someone like Professor PYG existed here because back in my world, the worst thing we had was terrorist cells, corruption, gang violence and toxic feminists. Not mass-murdering costume-wearing freaks that could induce the worst nightmares you can think of throughout an entire city. With help from the rest of the League and League associates, it would be a simple matter to create an impenetrable prison for anyone too dangerous to let out. I shrugged. But hey, that's just me. Maybe you guys just like wearing costumes and going out every night to fight more people with the same fetish. I finished to the sound of Jon Stewart's snicker. The rest looked at him and he shrugged. He's not completely wrong. In fact, he's got some valid points. Dude, you're wearing a costume too. The Flash pointed out accurately. An official Green Lantern uniform, commissioned by the Guardians of the Universe. Stewart shot back defensively. A few chuckles broke the tense mood in the air. Wonder Woman, Superman and Manhunter huddled together to discuss something. Most probably what to do with me. Batman was busy with his holographic wrist computer while also keeping a watchful eye on me. The three Leaguers having a discussion threw a few glances over at my position while I took the opportunity to talk to Miss Martian. Her mind shone like the sun compared to baseline humans like Robin. I say baseline, but even Robin's mind was like a lighthouse in comparison to actual baseline humans like the warriors of the village. The less said about Batman the better. Did that mean that there was a chance they could also develop telepathic abilities? I didn't think so, but maybe the exposure to Miss Martian's powers had made their minds more flexible. It was possible. I felt the link established between us. Luckily, she was smart enough to understand that I wanted to talk to her alone, otherwise this would probably turn into a shouting match between Wally and I. "Mgan, did Batman tell you guys about?" I trailed off, suddenly unsure of how to bridge that subject. It was still a sensitive topic to me, although I'd already made peace with it. "No, but Robin sorta told us. Though it wasn't intentional at all. I'm really sorry. I can't imagine how it must have felt like getting taken away from your family and life like that." I closed my eyes a little. "Yeah, it wasn't easy." "What do you mean it wasn't intentional?" I wondered, choosing to focus on that particular tidbit instead of my past. "It happened when we were knocked out." "Hello, Megan. Why don't I just show you what happened from our perspective and maybe you can also share?" I thought it over for a few seconds and nodded while smiling. "Fine. But not now. Not here." She nodded imperceptibly, our brief conversation going unnoticed except for him. "Yes, you guessed it right. Batman." He stepped forward, getting the discussion going on between the other 3 Prime Leaguers. The Flash, along with Adam, after making sure I had no intention to flee, continued their patrol around their village. Turns out many things didn't add up about the whole incident. For starters, there weren't any remains left of the zombies from our fight with both Nemeth or Mammon. Suspicious, but I also knew the one responsible. Swamp Thing, no doubt. It just made sense. How did I find all this out? Air sense, baby. I'll let you on in a little secret, my air bending was far above needing conscious control to be suppressed through compulsion. You seem awfully quiet today. Bat got your tongue? I asked Batman with a small upturn of my lips. The joke was terrible and I actually heard Robin and Artemis groan. I spared the pair a glance. "Hey, cut me some slack, my skills are rusty," I said defensively. "Boo." Artemis booed and showed me a thumbs down. Tough crowd. "Who are you working for?" Batman's voice rang out. Straight to the heart of the matter. I waited to feel the compulsion from the lasso of truth, but surprisingly the magical artifact didn't light up. We all looked at the only demigod around in question. "Wonder Woman?" Batman said, probably wondering why she wasn't activating the lasso of truth. Wait, did she actually even need to activate it? I thought that one touch and despite what happened, you would be compelled to tell the truth. Wonder Woman stepped up in between us. "Batman, you are no longer part of the Justice League. Due to your resignation, your clearance level has changed for security reasons. That means you are not authorized to question any of the League's suspects or potential suspects. Your authority level extends to the capacity of a League associate." Silence dominated the grounds. I couldn't believe it. Batman had resigned? What in the fucking hell? Could this be because of how everything went down? I looked at Manhunter for answers, his face remained impassive, showing me I wasn't going to get any. I straightened up and sighed, still in shock. Batman and Wonder Woman held eye contact for a few more seconds before the Dark Knight turned on his heel and left. "Batman." Superman called out softly. Bruce stopped and looked at the other man over his shoulder. "Save it. This is what I wanted and it doesn't change anything. The mission goes on." And then the Gothamite left. Robin looked like he wanted to do nothing more than follow after his mentor but relented. Probably because one of his teammates was catatonic back at the watchtower. "You will answer all the questions we ask you, is that clear?" Wonder Woman pulled me out of my thoughts and ordered. The lasso of truth glowed golden and I felt compelled to answer. This time the compulsion was like the weight of the whole earth as compared to the compulsion on the cuffs to use my abilities to fight. The latter felt like the weight of a small mountain. "Yes. I understand." My mouth said without any conscious control. The words just flowed out. Good. Wonder Woman to Watchtower. She placed her finger on the earpiece and called the big space station. Soon. How fast can you arrange transport? The answer she received wasn't satisfactory and she ended up cursing. By Hera. I raised an eyebrow as the rest looked at each other. Miss Martian, is the bio ship? Superman begun, trying to look for a different alternative. She is in no shape to fly. She answered and Wally snickered. Ah. Nice one, Gan. Miss Martian looked unsure. Thanks. So she got the worst of the telepathic attack from earlier when she tried to shield us. I'm sorry. Miss Martian refused. We will have to wait for a few minutes for the Watchtower to arrange extraction. I heard Wonder Woman mutter to Superman. They were of course wary to leave me unattended with less than everyone present. If I went ballistic, they feared a repeat of the Mount Justice incident. And I was also getting tired of standing in one place like a fool. I had a plan to carry out. Oh wait, did I forget to mention that? Only a fool would allow himself to be captured by his enemies like I had. I would never put my freedom at risk just to talk about my feelings or reconcile my differences with crazy people. Because that is what the League and hell, even I was. A normal person would have broken had they stayed a month with the League. I had. And I knew I wasn't the same Aden Strong that slept in his room and woke up to the sound of gunshots. That dude was dead. And after my talk with Lucifer, along with him telling me that I was alone the second I completed the missions he had for me, things fell into perspective real quick. This world was crazy. Insane. And to combat that craziness, I had to use my own craziness. The most underrated gift I had that trumped my powers and my meta-knowledge was the fact I knew I was crazy. The League, the junior team and all the other superheroes, even the people of this world, everybody was crazy compared to where I came from. They'd grown too desensitized to cape violence too fast. That is why I said everybody was mad. But things could be better. And I would show them. But for my plan to work, I needed access to the Watchtower. God, I hope this works. A boom tube appeared between the heroes and I. I held up my hands to placate Diana, who had a sword out of its sheath and pointed towards me. Hey, I'm not trying to attack you, this is just a way to get to the Watchtower quicker. Chapter 99, Full Circle Final Part. Aden's Point of View. Wonder Woman lowered her sword slowly, but the hard look on her face didn't change. It was easy to see that they didn't believe me. Which wasn't a bad thing, actually. I mean, from where they stood, I was clearly still the enemy. Barring that, at least a suspicious party. You're right to be cautious, I stated, pointing towards the vortex of yellow energy. The portal doesn't actually take you straight into the Watchtower, it crosses a dimension, only I have access to, and from there, I can create another portal into the Watchtower. I could see them soaking in the information. Robin was probably filing that away for future reference and countermeasures in case we fought again. One might wonder why I was so free with that information. And to prove my point, Aqualad called attention to himself by clearing his throat. Why would you trust us with that information when you know we might use it to our advantage? He asked. Wonder Woman narrowed her eyes. Answer Aqualad's question truthfully. The lasso of truth glowed a golden light and I felt a compulsion like earlier to tell the truth to the best of my knowledge. Because I have nothing to hide on the subject and I want your trust in return. Lying or giving half-truths about my portals would only get in the way of that. I am willing to take the chance that you might use that information to beat me. I finished and my mouth immediately closed with an almost audible snap. I took a few calming breaths and looked at Wonder Woman in annoyance. That was not in any way pleasant. The Themysciran princess snorted. You know what they say, the truth sets you free. I held up my bound hands. They must have been drunk off their senses when they said that, seeing as I'm still in cuffs. I replied, a little more than miffed. You'll get there. Eventually. Superman said and patted me on the shoulder with a brief smile. Or not. Wally added, only for Artemis to hit him on the side with her elbow, taking over from Robin. Ow. They started arguing a little in good-natured fun. Meanwhile, I smiled inwardly. The lasso of truth compelled you to tell the truth, but it didn't compel you to reveal more than the scope of the question. Wonder Woman was clearly smart enough to ask a loaded question to get as much information as she could about a subject, but what she didn't account for was how effective the artifact was on an individual like me. Despite the fact that the Avatar state was out of commission, along with the Avātār System stance not to make anything easy on me, there was a security measure put in place to ensure any and all information I had on the system was not made accessible to telepaths or outside parties without the express permission of the ones who placed me here. As a byproduct of that, I could draw a little on that influence by thinking of the answers the lasso compelled out of me, and then placing tidbits of information about the system in the actual sentences containing the truth. That way, those sentences would be completely cut away, leaving only the words I wanted to say and the truth I wanted them to hear to flow out of my lips. It's complicated, I know. But also really simple. It wasn't a lie that I wanted their trust. Getting it would make things a whole lot easier in gaining access to the watchtower the right way, without the damn place going all intruder on me. The Greek demigod, Kryptonian and Martian turned to face me fully after another brief discussion I'd missed. Manhunter's eyes glowed green and I felt a mental sweep on my surface thoughts. The Ba Ba Black Sheep nursery rhyme started playing on full blast inside my head as I smiled. Manhunter furrowed his eyebrow. I cannot read his surface thoughts. He informed the other two. I knew it, he's hiding something. Wally shouted in excitement. As if he'd won $1 million through a lottery ticket. Everyone looked at him in mixed reactions. The team didn't seem to believe him but had to after everything that had happened, and the Leaguers seemed to believe him without a shred of doubt. I shrugged. You've already violated my right to privacy and personal opinion by shackling me with power-dampening cuffs and not to mention Wonder Woman's lasso of truth. Can you blame me for trying to keep my thoughts to myself? The last vestige of respect I have? I asked. Wally stalked towards me angrily, not buying into my act at all. You're lying. The power dampeners are clearly not working if you can open a portal while they are active. He came within head-butting distance, but I chose to be the bigger man and not break his nose. That's because it's not a meta ability, you ass. And that's all I'm saying on that. UFA. Okay, that's enough. We're wasting time here, Diana. Jon Stewart came to my rescue, a green construct pulling back Wally and covering his mouth. No one wanted to hear the insults coming out of his mouth. I chuckled to needle him due to the anger in his eyes, when I found a construct muffling my mouth too. I spared John a look that said, really dude? The Black Green Lantern shrugged. No playing favorites. I fuck everybody up equally. I nodded sagely. Good man. Superman and everyone else looked at the lantern in shock. What? I have a life and a personality outside the green and black uniform. Now let's get gone. If he tries anything, trust me, I'll have him down before anyone can say Jack Robinson. I looked at the man in interest. The same interest being shared by everyone present as well. Okay, never knew Stewart was this cool. We entered the boom tube to find ourselves on one of the islands furthest away from Sanctuary. Instantly, their presence registered in my awareness and I got the sense I could choose what to do with them. For all of his power, even Superman would be nothing in front of the authority I wielded in this dimension. That said, I didn't have a grudge with the heroes. I didn't hate them, what I hated was the way they carried out their duties. What is this place? It's so quiet. M'gan said, probably not sensing a lot of minds in her range. I also spared a look at the other hero with a different set of super senses, Superman, and I could tell from his face he was similarly surprised by my dimension. Everybody else looked entranced by the beautiful environment. Even one of my basic islands looked like a paradise when compared to the best garden on earth, and I felt uncomfortable allowing anyone to see a piece of my utopia. It's all necessary, I told myself. A boom tube appeared before us and I walked in without answering. This time, we stepped foot out in the watchtower. I dismissed the boom tube a few seconds later after making sure that the last of the heroes had crossed through. Multiple intruders detected. The alarm blared through the P-Data system. Watchtower override Superman 01. The alarm went silent, just as the door to the meeting hall where we had portaled in burst open. Green Arrow and Black Canary walked through in combat readiness. "Oh, it's you guys," Green Arrow said, lowering his bow. Black Canary widened her eyes upon us seeing each other and practically ran towards me, wrapping her arms around my body in a massive hug, surprising everybody. But no one was as surprised as I was. The look of shock and betrayal on Green Arrow's face was almost worth it, but I was stumped. What the fuck was happening? I mean, Canary was cool. She was a mentor to me. Someone that had helped perfect my fighting skills and polish my sound sub skill. We had spent so many evenings together as she tried to push me to the next level in my close-quarter combat. Her hugging me like that brought about the realization that I had missed her a lot. "Aden, you're all right." She pulled back and said, "You've even grown taller." "Yeah." I smiled a little, still out of it. "I guess I have." She grew conscious of our surroundings and stepped back with a sigh. "A lot needs to be said, and if the situation allows it, it will. For now you need to take responsibility for your actions before we hear your side of the story," she said in that professional yet caring tone she used in therapy. "Fair enough. Let's move, kid," Stuart told me while lightly shoving me. "You know, I think there is a law somewhere about how you should handle minors. You can't interrogate me without a parental figure present." The lantern chuckled, nodding at Green Arrow who was sending glares my way. "Seriously, dude probably thinks I'm going to steal his girlfriend? Fiancé? Wife? On second thought, maybe he's right to worry. Canary is effing gorgeous, and those legs. Are you honestly drooling after someone who's been like a big sister to you?" Stuart's voice cut through my thoughts like a hot knife on butter. We'd moved past the door to the Hall of Justice and were now heading towards what I was sure was an interrogation room. This wasn't John, not really. It was too out of character. Did it work? Sweat ran down my back as John and I walked on. I tried to keep my nervousness in check, keenly aware that it was only the two of us in the hallway. "Come on, Stuart, you're acting as if the Green Lantern ring on your finger is a chastity ring. I thought you were a man of culture, John." "Hey, trust me, I'm a freak. Canary's just too close to a sister." "Now if it's Maze we're talking about or Starfire," he whistled, "that's a wild different thing. It's like Pops used to say, we dogs." I stopped in the middle of the hallway. "And dogs gotta eat." Man, never thought I'd hear that whack saying ever again, I said, closing my eyes a little. A few seconds later and I was lightly pushed to keep on walking. Yeah, well, nothing is ever set in stone now. It's a consequence of finding yourself in a world with thousands of powered individuals and crazies throwing around cosmic power like it's a joke. It's even worse for me. I looked over the shoulder at the man. "Gee, and here I thought you seemed whelmed," I joked, only to get a slap on the back of my head. If I wasn't wary of breaking more rules than I already have, I'd go and make sure Robin never came up with this bullshit. I laughed, getting the last confirmation I needed that things had happened the way I had wanted them to. We stopped before a door that scanned John for authorization and opened. Recognized Green Lantern 014. The voice of the computer followed us inside to a room with a one-way mirror. A door next to the mirror led to another room, a classic interrogation room with one chair and a table bolted to the floor. "Let me guess, Batman's design choice?" I asked. "Can't really say, it's been long since you know what? No spoilers." Get inside, we need to talk. His voice suddenly went through on a drastic change, taking on a hard tone. I looked at him strangely and walked in. Then the door closed and the mood in the room turned very serious. He motioned for me to take a seat and I complied. Stuart's eyes drilled into mine with a scary intensity. You're slipping. Coming up with plans on the fly and discarding the long-term objectives due to panic. He cut right into the heart of the matter. But he didn't understand it. He didn't understand the pressure. You're wrong. What I'm doing is something I should have done weeks and months ago. Taking advantage of every situation I can, to prepare myself for the insanity of this world. Lucifer is going to cut me off from his protection and I'm normally. Stuart looked at me in disgust, successfully cutting me off with a glare and his hands crossed over his chest. Do you even hear yourself? Was I always this much of a wimp? What right did he have to judge me? My actions led to him being alive in the first place. Fuck you, Aden. I rose up and said, losing control of myself. You have no idea how much pressure I'm in. I have no one to have my back. And when Lucifer withdraws his protection, my ass is going to be in deep shit because I am not powerful enough to take on whatever eldritch assholes he's been protecting me from. The Avātār state is non-accessible. I am not rejoining the team, which means the League's help is out, and I'll be damned if I share the same air as Lex Luthor by joining him and his little band. I am all alone. Silence dominated the interrogation room as I breathed in heavily. I sat back down and ran a hand down my face. So? MMH? Your first thought to fix that is risking your freedom over something that probably wouldn't have worked? Stuart's voice spoke up. I looked up at him, my gaze spearing through his eyes to see the being controlling him. Me. A chair made out of will was conjured under him and he sat on it. I remember when I was you. I wasn't in the right head space at the time. And yes, you're right to think that this world and others are crazy. Which is why you need to take it step by step. Don't throw caution to the wind by reacting to your surroundings, act according to the information you already have. Be in control. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that I knew you'd go off the deep end if your stupid plan didn't work, I would have never gone to the trouble of coming back. He told me and I kept quiet to digest the information. What he said was right. I had been reacting in fear after my talk with Lucifer and maybe seeing hell, something that was traumatic even as a nightmare was enough to completely fuck up my day. Be in control, huh? How'd you do it? I asked him, referring to the crossing over. Well, it wasn't easy. He sighed. True time travel would have messed with this universe and caused changes you cannot afford. Too many close calls for things to not go your way. And even if they do, you're not the same person afterwards. His fingers clenched and unclenched. Anyway, I accessed a parallel universe in a time sync with Earth 16, which is basically this, he waved his hand to indicate. Then I crossed the time stream back to the relative time you came up with his hair-brained idea to commit this time in the future so that you could travel back in time to give yourself some cheats and help in protecting yourself once Lucy says you're on your own. Once the time ratio was 1-to-1, I seized control of the central power battery of OA and piggybacked through its connection to Stuart and gained control of him through blah blah blah. Oh sorry, you're not ready to hear that just yet. But yeah, I'm controlling Stuart remotely because I can't risk someone finding out I'm around. He finished and I sighed, understanding just how desperate I'd actually gotten. All in the space of a few hours' talk with Lucifer. It really was dumb, wasn't it? I mean, how could I have known that I would even get to live long enough to find a way to time travel? Plus you'd think with my meta-knowledge on how time travel works, I'd be wary to use it in case I broke the world around me into a mockery of its original timeline. Yeah, well, you weren't thinking. Now, Stuart rose up. In 2 minutes, you will have roughly 5 minutes to complete the rest of your plan. Goodbye, and don't expect I'll ever help you out again. This is your life, not mine. With that, future me left. There wasn't a clock in the room, but part of the aesthetic design of the Avatar display box was a status bar where the time and date was shown. I focused on the team just as Stuart regained control over his body. 2 minutes. 1 minute 59 seconds. 58 seconds. What just happened? How did I get here? The last thing I remember was, "Are you all right?" I cut off his confused muttering and asked in concern. He stared at me in suspicion, the green ring on his finger glowing menacingly. Hey. I didn't do anything. Look, I'm tied up. I raised up my hands to show I wasn't lying. Where are the others? That question actually made me curious why they let John walk me to the interrogation room alone. Say what you will, but no one could deny I was powerful and dangerous. Must have been future me's work. In fact, he must have gained control of Stuart way back in Kenya, just after I'd come up with the reckless plan. I shrugged in response to Stuart's question. I don't know. You just brought me here after we made it back to the watchtower. I answered honestly. Ring, status update on my most recent behavior. I want to know everything. He said and left, closing the door behind him. Leaving me alone in the room. Unsupervised. Though I was sure there were cameras to read my every move. The 2 minutes went by slowly, but when they finally ended, time stopped. I could feel it through the air. I was exempt from time. A light shone on the table, as a box wrapped around by a string and a note tied up on top of it appeared before me. I untied the note and read through it. I never make it easy on myself, cheater. But just this once, I'll do you a solid. Who knows, maybe you won't mess things up for me with blah blah. Damn it. Oh well, the thing in this box is a personal creation of a friend, called AMDP. Multiversal Data Pod. It can open anything, store loads of information, and you'll find out its main use once you take it back to the elemental dimension. Note 1, get some friends, you bastard. A few spoilers are in the MDP to get you started on that. Note 2, don't wear a condom on your birthday, it's just an inconvenience, and trust me, it doesn't even work. This marks the end of part 33 of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.